Alright guys, today your fellow Gen Z Brit, very curious minds, going to be checking out 25 common misconceptions about the United States that simply aren't true. Now I'm really excited to get into this one. Obviously having recently came back from the US, I'm very curious to see what is going to be said. Of course guys, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Road to 60k, as you can see my live sub count at the top there. And of course, if you enjoy these types of videos, don't forget to smash that like button, especially so I know you guys want to see more. But look guys, with that being said, let's get straight into the video. Let's go.
The United States often draws a lot of flack from the rest of the world for everything. From its foreign policy to the way it runs its domestic affairs. In fact, it seems like there are few things that can divide the world more evenly and more strongly than asking people what their opinion is of the United States. Everyone has an opinion. Even in the same city, you'll meet people who fall on the extreme sides of the spectrum.
Right.
But what is it exactly that causes America to be so messed up? Even America's own politicians can't seem to stop talking about how messed up things are. Well, today we're going to take a deeper look. Are things really as bad as everyone seems to think they are? I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 common misconceptions about the United States that simply aren't true.
Alright, let's
And
see
as a
this one.
very important note, this list was produced by both a United States citizen and 2 European citizens that relocated to the United States. It's written to be as fair as possible.
Interesting.
No, I'm not 2 Europeans. Or am I?
No, you're not.
All right, let's begin with a really common thought.
Just
Americans are ignorant about the world. Americans are held to an unrealistic standard. Since the rest of the world watch our movies and listen to our music, they know a lot about our country. But let's be honest, they never studied it. People actually complain that Americans don't even know that Czechoslovakia doesn't exist anymore. But neither does half the United Kingdom, and they're on the same
I
continent.
didn't know that.
It turns out that all of us are pretty bad at geography. You'd think America would be better at it, however, considering another common thought is that America spends its days spying on everyone.
Huh.
And that's true.
What?
But
I've never heard of that one.
who doesn't? Germany, France, Switzerland, Japan, Iceland, and all...
Well, we're talking about on like a government level then. Oh, okay, I hear it. Okay, I hear that. I have heard it from that level. I guess I'm thinking it from just the day-to-day. Oh, gosh.
True. But who doesn't? Germany, France, Switzerland, Japan, Iceland, and all the rest of us spy on each other and ourselves. Moving on, America has been called racist.
Oh.
Please don't take this the wrong way. Racism definitely exists, and it makes the news.
Right.
But you know what else? America also has a vicious media, and all of the world watches it, sometimes more than their own media. So when something super bad happens in other countries, it might not even make the back page. Next, it's a
I don't know what it is about America, but America just like people just. I feel like everything on America just America's like the big stage. Like we all like everybody looks at what's going on in America because I feel like it's always just things are just more there. Like more of you name it is you'll most likely find it in America. So especially when it comes to drama or news or like politics, it's just way more of a thing in the US. At least coming from a UK lens.
It might not even make the back page.
Especially when it comes to the media.
It's a common misconception that Americans don't use public transport. While it's true that we use cars a lot, many regions in America have great public transport.
Oh, this is one of
Or at
my
least
ones.
just as good as Europe. Besides, what good is a train if nobody can afford it? We're looking at you, UK. Moving on. America...
Hey, that straight felt so personal. He's not wrong though. The London transport, especially the TFL, is crazy. Yeah, it is quite expensive. Like and it gets more expensive, especially nowadays. It's cost of living stuff. It's quite a bit. It's quite a chunk, and they always take it out like at 1 a.m. in the morning. You're confused. Like why is like £16 coming out my account at this time? And you realize, oh, transport for London. He's not wrong. Why did that feel so personal? Like
afford it. We're looking at you, UK.
that was so.
Moving on. America does / is fill in the blank. America is far from being a unified entity. Each state has its own laws, cultures, and quirks. Some states have the death penalty. Some don't.
Really?
Some have strict gun laws, and some don't.
Oh, I know about that.
Some have free college. Some don't.
Oh.
Some have tax, and yeah, some don't. So just like you can't
Wow.
say Europe is so-and-so, you can't say the same about the U.S. As an additional
Yeah,
note,
I
the
hear
states
it.
are far more independent than many of us realize. In fact, every state even has its own military, known as the
really?
Guard. Furthermore,
wow.
some states pass legislation that directly contradicts the federal government.
Oh,
This
wow.
is because in the U.S., the federal government is not the highest authority. The states are.
Wow.
To further establish
Didn't
the
know that.
fact that America isn't a single entity, many believe that Americans only speak one language. But that's no different from the rest of the world. Have you ever been to France? Or the UK? Or Italy? Or how about China? Most of them only speak one language too. That being said, over 20% of the U.S. is bilingual.
That's pretty
Now,
decent.
Let's talk about the military.
No, but that's interesting though, and I think again, I always say this in these videos that especially when I'm doing these videos looking into the US and comparing it, like the way it's made the most sense to me as a Brit is to look at the US like a continent, and then each state is like a country. Like that's what makes the most sense. Like size wise, it makes the most sense in terms of how each state is independent and how one state can be so much different to another. Like that's how I conceptualize it. Right. So for my Europeans watching this, if you just look at the US as a continent, and it'll make more sense. Like it'll make
Bilingual. Now, let's talk about the military, because people outside the U.S. will preach that America's military does, again, fill in the blank. Nobody is naive enough to think that the U.S. doesn't have selfish interests in mind when it invades a country. There isn't a nation on earth that would do that selflessly. But whenever the bad goes down, it's just as common for other countries to complain that America should do something. On a more or less lighter note, Americans are fat.
hey. He said it.
You ever been to the UK?
I see why he
lately?
made that joke.
There are even scandals because obese patients are getting turned down for surgery.
Oh.
Yes,
Oh.
America does have an obesity problem.
Ah,
But not all citizens are involved in it. I am. A big part of the United States is fairly health conscious and is consistently working to help the overweight population better their lives. Thanks, healthy people. And while we aren't
Yeah.
perfect, many complain that America is worse than other developed nations in,
Ameri-
well, everything. There are many statistics, child mortality, literacy, etc., where the U.S. falls behind countries like Norway and Iceland. But those statistics are based on averages. In Norway,
Right.
most of the 5 million inhabitants are rich, white, and Norwegian. If you took a similar sample of rich, white Americans in the U.S., you would find that the statistics are almost exactly the same.
Right.
The fact is that the U.S. is hugely diverse, and
Yeah,
the American
facts.
experience is completely different with and without money. Translation? The problem isn't healthcare or education, it's economic inequality, almost exclusively.
Very interesting.
And speaking of inequality, many...
No, but going back to what you said about the Americans being bigger, like that's another thing that I realized when I was in the US. US big is different to like UK big. Like US big is like UK extra big. And you can extrapolate that to not even just the size of people, the food, the cars, the roads, the amounts of products you can get in certain stores like Walmart and Target. Like, mate, it's just big in the US is a whole nother thing, man.
economic inequality, almost exclusively. And speaking of inequality, many make the simple but powerful assumption that America just isn't safe. This is usually what foreign citizens say until they
Really?
actually come here. By this same logic, Paris, Brussels, London, Madrid, and almost every other city in Europe is unsafe as well. Yes, there are guns, but most Americans have never seen or heard a gun being fired. In fact,
Oh,
most
wow.
Swiss citizens are much more familiar with gunfire than us Americans. All this being said so far,
Interesting.
people still expect all Americans to relish in a life of our stereotypes. Guns, fast food, and freedom! What I'm saying is, a lot of the world looks at America as overly patriotic. But here's an honest
Right.
question.
Are you guys not?
Have you ever met a Russian, Australian, a proud member of the UK? There's no shame in having pride in your country. Us Americans
Right.
are definitely patriotic.
Right.
So is the rest of the world. As they should be. It's not a crime to be proud of where you came from.
I mean, look. When I was in the US, I saw a flag. I saw flags everywhere. You got some. I swear, you guys even have flags for each state. Like that, I feel like America's patriotism is not the same. At least compared to the UK, I can only compare to the UK. Really, that's what I know. It's not the same. Like it's rare you see, Brits who are really, really patriotic, like the way I see some Americans are for the UK. Like, we're just a lot of us just nonchalant. Like, just. I'll say, of course, there's people like that everywhere, but I don't know. I feel like America's gonna be up there. America, like, you know, like I never hear anyone going like London or Britain. Like I don't hear that as much. Maybe that's a cultural thing as well. I don't know. That's interesting.
But that doesn't stop others from thinking we only complain and boast about America whenever we travel abroad. This is largely anecdotal. In America, Americans like to complain just like the rest of us. Only a few of them ever even leave the country, so you're meeting an unrepresentative sample. But in their defense, many times, they're right. Yes, this can hit hard in the pride spot, but maybe Europeans could stand to smile a bit more, right?
He's not wrong.
Okay, fine.
He's not wrong, though.
Apathetic, leave me alone face.
There's
By the way, that part was written for our European representative. By our European representative. I love all of you. Anyways, statistics viewed by outsiders show that the U.S. is lagging behind. Similar to topics we've already discussed, there's another factor that we have to take into account. Reporting. Every nation reports its own statistics. This means that making statistical comparisons between two developed nations, like the US and the UK, is an exercise in futility. The data is just too close and won't reveal much except that the US counts people one way and the US counts them another. That still doesn't make this misconception true. Americans are fake. Here's the thing. In Europe, citizens are almost proud of the fact that they're really standoffish. But once you get to know them, they're your friend for life.
Right.
Well, here's a newsflash. Once you get to know an American, they'll also be your friend for life. The thing is, though, they don't use this as an excuse to be a jerk in the beginning. This list sounds great coming from an American. I was totally the one who should have read this one. But I digress. On a totally...
there's subtle strays in there, you know. Subtle strays. But I hear it. I mean, we'll talk about misconceptions that a lot of us have about the US, so... You know, he's gonna fire back some of that energy. I'm here for it, though. I'm here for it. Don't get it twisted. I'm here for all of that.
I was totally the one who should have read this one, but I digress. On a totally different but very popular misconception, Americans are the only ones who call football soccer. Actually, a lot of the world calls it soccer. Even parts of Ireland still call it soccer. Actually, the British who coined the term soccer. The word soccer is an abbreviation of association and first appeared in universities in the 1880s, sometimes using the variant spelled soccer with a K. The word is sometimes credited to Charles Redford Brown, an Oxford University student said to have been fond of shortened forms such as brekkers for breakfast and rugger for rugby football. Britain actually started using the word football in the late 20th century, possibly because people incorrectly saw it as an Americanism. This next one, Tristan couldn't believe.
Wow. At the end of the day, look, football is football, and Americans still call it soccer. So let's get it right, okay? It's time to change. Forget about history. It's football.
Late 20th century, possibly because people incorrectly saw it as an Americanism. This next one, Tristan couldn't believe. Could you not?
No.
I'm learning something.
Oh, wow. What's this?
To our American viewers, did you know that people in Europe make fun of you for using air conditioning? Why do they need it? Why don't they just leave the window open? Mosquitoes? At least in Florida.
Okay,
but here's why they might be joining us soon. During the 2003 European heatwave, 70,000 people died. This was in large part due to the fact that European homes and buildings are not typically equipped with air conditioning. While they laugh at the Americans for this, hotter summers are going to force them to take appropriate measures, especially since children and the elderly are very susceptible. Again, I stand by mosquitoes. I'm not opening my window in the summer. Winter, absolutely, open windows. Moving into the top 9.
I feel like that depends, though. I feel like that depends on where in Europe we're talking about. Because I know in the UK, we're notoriously known for having gloomy skies and just colder weather. Like, if the weather's, like, it's sunny, it's been sunny this week. For a Brit, that's like heaven. That's like you just won the lottery. Because when we get sunny days, we cherish them because it's rarely ever sunny. Even during the summer, it's not that hot. And it doesn't stay hot for that long. It's like blimps of summer and it comes back down. It's hot again. Like, so I don't know, the AC one, I didn't know that was a misconception about the US. Like, why do you guys use it so much? I mean, I feel like it makes more sense in the US because some of those states are hot and humid. Like, whereas in the UK, it's like the weather doesn't get that hot. But then I don't know. Maybe the other I can't even. What other country could it be? Is Spain? Maybe, I don't know. But I didn't know about that.
Open windows. Moving into the top 9. That's the weird number. Top 9. Many parts of the world accuse the United States of accounting for 25% of the world's carbon emissions. Not so nice. But it also accounts for 25% of the world's economic activity. The truth is that several nations, including countries like Canada, have higher per capita emissions than the US.
Oh.
Next, let's talk about how the world thinks Americans are ruining English.
Shout out to Canada.
Actually, both British English and American English have diverged from a common 16th century ancestral standard, and in some ways, American English is closer to the original than British English.
Oh.
For example, American English has, for the most part, retained the language's rotosity, pronunciation of the R in words like hard, while British has, for the most part, dropped it.
Hard.
Furthermore, this shift in British English happened around the time of the American Revolution when wealthier Londoners wanted to distinguish themselves from the lower classes. This is only one example, but it goes to show that British English is not an unchanging standard any more than American English.
I mean, that's facts.
On a totally different note, did you
That's
know that
facts.
Americans don't all live in the suburbs? Nope, not true. The fact is that in America, you have plenty of people that live in cities like New York, Washington, D.C., San Francisco, Chicago, Boston.
That's a misconception.
The list goes on. In fact, several regions of the
How
United
is
States...
that a misconception? Who thinks that about everybody living in the suburbs? Where's that coming from? Is that like older people, older gen thing? Like, because all I know is, like, people talk all the time from what I know about New York, LA, the Chicagos, the Texas and stuff, like the more like rural parts, especially Times Square and all of that. Like, who thinks everybody lives in the suburbs? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm the exception. If that's made the list, I might be an exception. You guys let me know. Have you guys heard about that one before? I don't know.
Chicago, Boston, and the list goes on. In fact, several regions of the United States are very European, like the Northeast Corridor, for example. The difference between the U.S. and Europe is that if you want to live in the suburbs in the U.S., you can, but you don't have to. Now, this next one is just offensive. Americans are all dumb rednecks.
Okay, that's
Well, there are
wild.
certainly Americans who fit this stereotype.
That's wild.
The vast majority don't. Most Americans live in cities near the coasts. Most of them are educated, and most of them are not very different from Europeans in any significant way. Every country has a less educated populace that they themselves make fun of. Even sophisticated nations like Sweden and Switzerland. Fair warning, the last 5 on our list get a bit dark and crazy.
The redneck one's kind of mad though. I've never had that misconception. I've never heard of that. So if you guys generally have heard of that one before, like, damn, yeah, man, that's a mad misconception. To be fair, I did not know about that one.
Fair warning, the last 5 on our list get a bit dark and crazy. Starting with the idea that America is imperialistic. In many parts of Europe, the United States is seen as an aggressive imperial power, even more so than Russia and China. This is largely because our military presence both in Europe
Okay, guys, no, I have to. We're doing this. We're doing this right now. Imperialistic. Oops, click the wrong one. Allow. Meaning. Relating to or characterized by policy of imperialism. What's imperialism? Bro! Why does it keep asking for my look? A policy of extending a country's power and influence through colonization, use of military force or other means. Damn. Oh, that's tough. Oh, that's what imperialism means. Oh, that's tough. Oh, that's a dark one. Okay, I understand why that's dark now. I understand why that's dark. Hey, I'm gonna let him explain that one because who thought that?
So than Russia and China. This is largely because the last 5 on our list get a bit dark and crazy, starting with the idea that America is imperialistic. In many parts of Europe, the United States is seen as an aggressive imperial power, even more so than Russia and China. This is largely because our military presence both in Europe and everywhere else. But in our strong defense, Americans never forced you to watch our movies, quarter our soldiers, obey our laws, or get permission to leave your own countries. It was the Russians that did that, and much more.
He's doing
Food
a lot
for
of shade in this
video.
video.
After World War II, the Americans liberated and left. The Russians liberated and stayed.
Ooh.
All right, number 4 is sure to be a shocker
Damn,
to
that's a dark
lot
one.
of foreigners. Americans don't actually all walk around with guns. It's just not true.
Why is that
Except
the
for a few
picture?
places, the only people you'll ever see carrying guns in America are the police. In fact, you'll see more people walking around with guns in Switzerland than you ever would in America.
He's doing so much shade for it.
We admit that, like most stereotypes, there is some truth to this next one, but it's been wildly blown out of proportion. Americans are all crazy Christian right-wingers. There's something so right about saying it with that accent.
These are so
yes, there
extreme.
are a lot of Christians in America, and while some of them
These
are
are so
crazy
extreme.
right-wingers, most of them aren't. In fact, if you ever get a chance to go and stay with one of those crazy Christian families, you'll see that most of them are just genuinely sweet people that go to church on Sundays. This next one sounds like a legit...
No, but are we being like these last 2 or 3, like especially, like, are you sure that people out there that genuinely think that? Like, surely there's people understand there's more nuance than that. Like, all Americans around with guns and, you know, crazy right-wing Christians. Like, what? I don't know if where he's getting these from, you know.
Stand-up joke.
I've never,
If
maybe
you
it's just
get
me.
injured and can't pay for it, you'll just die in the street. Yeah.
Like, even before I found out about before I went to the US for 2 months, like, I didn't have any of these misconceptions. I never did I hear some of these. I'm like, wow, okay, if some people out there think that, that's mad.
Church on Sundays.
That's wild.
This next one sounds like a legit stand-up joke. If you get injured and can't pay for it, you'll just die in the street. Yeah, many people in Europe think this is what happens in America. As with most things that concern America, they're wrong. You can't be denied emergency medical care in the U.S.
Okay, I
That
did
would go
kind of
against
think
the
this.
Hippocratic
I
Oath.
did kind of think this.
The difference is that you get a bill in the mail a few months later.
Right.
Of course,
right.
debt is another issue, but let's get into that right now. Americans are all in debt. Actually,
Medical debt.
European citizens carry more debt than Americans. The average household debt in the U.S., OECD, is 113% of the household's income. In the U.K.,
Wow.
it's 156%.
Is it?
In Sweden, 173.
There's
And in
got to be a
Denmark, it's a
reason for
whopping
that.
305%.
Whoa.
So, what are some misconceptions about the
Why
U.S.
didn't
that
he-
you'd like cleared up?
Why didn't he break down that stat though? Because if this was the other way around, he would have broke it down in the US and gone, oh well, because the US is a lot bigger, and you know if you go look at each state, and it's like that's the averages that got skewed by the average, and I'm like, bro, he just fully just baited out all of these other countries, and I'm like, yo, where's the explanation? He didn't even give it. Ah, that's mad though.
Or do you live in America and want to put a stereotype to rest? Let
That's
us know in the
mad.
comments below, or tweet your answer to us at list25.
Wow, but yeah, guys, that seems to be the end of the video. I'm so see, look, I mean, you guys saw my reaction. Majority of these, like, I was kind of shocked. I didn't actually have these misconceptions of the US. Maybe I'm in the minority. Like, I mean, some of them that I had were like the patriotism and like the size and then the geography. But then towards the end, though, I'm like, yo, people think that about the US? Like, I know he's generalizing here as well, so I got to obviously take it with a pinch of salt. Like, these are misconceptions, but some people actually think that? Mate, look, if you guys let me know, if you're not from the US and you're watching this, let me know if you guys had any of these misconceptions. Let me know which one surprised you the most. And if you are from the US, let me know which one surprised you the most about what people think about a lot of you guys that live there. Do you know what I'm saying? And yeah, guys, let me know what you thought about this video. Interesting misconceptions. Of course, if you made this point, comment down a green hearts. I know who my real ones are. You guys are the realest of the real that watch through it to the end. I love you guys that be supporting me on this journey of curiosity. Of course, road to 60k. We are climbing fast. And yeah, guys, don't forget to like the video before you head on out and subscribe to the channel. I've been your boy JayFlex, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.